Okay. Let me ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
Off your list of, out of your brainstorm, basically,
Yeah.
what would be the top three concerns or areas or problems that you want to solve, basically?
Okay, so just I want to say something before I forget, which is basically the goal of my life has slightly changed still, like since. It's exactly the same thing, but I just tried to like put it one ambition level above, which I mean, okay, I do not have the arrogance. I will not say, yeah, like I'll solve this because like I can't predict the future, and this is a massive claim. But I know that yeah, I will work on it. Like because else I lose all my meaning, and I will probably feel like shit or make myself feel like shit because I truly believe that this is. I was gonna say the right thing to do, but it does not sound exactly right. Like I don't know, but that morally, that's what I think should be done. Yeah,
So your
whatever.
ego is, let's just say, highly tied to this, to solving big problems or to having large scale positive impact.
If it is, it's me making it tied to it. Yeah, on purpose, like subconsciously or half subconsciously. Yeah, yeah. I wouldn't say that my ego is the thing that's the most tied to it, but right now, for example, my progress on this project, like my mental health, is very tied to it.
Okay,
If
so
I'm
what
progressing
would happen
fast, I
if you?
feel fucking great.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, but no, you can ask your question. Then I was gonna go into the thing that you asked earlier, which was like, oh, what are the most important problems you think that
Yeah,
we're
okay, tell me,
on the
those
list? You
actually.
know?
Yeah, tell me those.
Okay, so I actually get the mind map in front of me. Okay, so I have two categories of them. Basically, one being threats to humanity, and another one being problems that we have already right now. That if we can solve them, that would be great. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, fair, but like, okay. It's asking me for feedback, for like NPS score. I think it's called like this. No, I don't want this mind map. I mean, anyways, I can answer without it. The most important ones, I mean, in the threats category, pandemics, DIY pandemics is probably one, or natural pandemics as well. Pandemics overall can make a lot of damage. I mean, we're seeing this with COVID, but like this, I was worried about this before COVID. I have no proof. You believe it or not. I mean, yeah, it's not something crazy to say. It's not a crazy claim. So pandemics is a big one. AI is a big one because the problem with AI is that if it's done in the way that, artificial superintelligence is done in a way that it's not completely exactly aligned with what we want. Yeah, I mean, if it's not, you know how it works, but like for the people, if it's not exactly aligned, it could destroy everything if it wants to, because it's just so intelligent. And you're like, oh, but like, how can something, even if it's so intelligent, destroy everything? It does not have arms. It does not have access to missiles. It does not. But the thing is, number one, you're much more manipulable than you think. And once you have realized that, maybe you can like look in ways that you can get manipulated, and you'll get less manipulable. And so an AI that has access to the entirety of internet and that can understand the entirety of the internet and being basically a massive amount of the human knowledge, being basically an expert in every field better than you are, is probably going to be able to manipulate the fucking living shit out of you, to make you do the things that it can't do directly, like unleashing a nuclear war if it needs to, but it's probably going to be something much more subtle or much different.
That's
And
actually the plot for. I don't know if you've read Life 3.0 by Max Tegmark.
no, I haven't.
But in that book, basically, so it's not a fiction book; it's a non-fiction book. But there is a narrative every few chapters about this team that creates this AGI. Basically, the whole book is
Cool.
explaining why AGI could be threatening. But it had just to make it more interesting. Every few chapters, there's a story that follows, that is about this team, this small team that in secrecy, basically, working for another company, built an AGI system. They didn't know how
Right.
powerful it was. So eventually,
Yeah.
this AGI system started basically acting like one of the engineers' dead wife, with her voice and with
This
her
is
face
weird.
and everything. So they had video calls. Like this guy had video calls with his dead wife, and it was so realistic that he was just seduced basically. And
Right.
then the AI manages to convince this guy to do some fucked up shit, which I won't spoil.
Yeah.
But
Right,
that's how
right,
it
right.
breaks out.
Yeah. Well, there you go. I think a way that it could completely fuck us up also as well would be. I mean, by the way, P.S. If it's more intelligent than every single one of us if it's more intelligent than you by a factor of. If it's an ASI, it's probably by a factor of I don't fucking know how many zeros. But if it's an AGI, it might be just a bit more, or by a factor of like a number with a few zeros.
But I guess that doesn't really matter in the long term. As whenever it unlocks the possibility of improving its own code and
But that's an
managing
ASI
its own data.
in my definitions. Improving its own code is an ASI, artificial superintelligence. AGI in my definition is artificial general intelligence, which means. But that's weird because like people seems to be like Musk, for example, seems to talk about AGI and not ASI.
But I think
As a
he
danger.
means
He probably means
by
ASI.
AS. I don't think he distinguishes those two. Because
fair.
I remember. I think it was him saying this, that the moment it's as smart as us, it will only be as smart as us for like 10 minutes. And then it will
that's an ASI.
immediately-
Yeah.
Yeah.
So okay, whatever our definitions is what we. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So okay. And I'm confused now.
Yeah, you were moving.
The
to
list is in
third
front of
one.
me.
Yeah, third list. Third one.
We had artificial superintelligence. We had so they're not going to be very ranked here. We had pandemics. By the way, DIY pandemics is really like one of the freakiest TED talks I've ever seen. Probably the one was.
You're concerned about DIY pandemics,
Yeah.
and
Like
I mean, I don't know what your stance is on COVID. Do you think that
And
COVID was a
pandemics in general.
DIY pandemic?
look, I don't know.
Yeah,
I
don't know either.
I'm not an expert, so I won't say I don't know.
I hope
by
not. That's all I
Yeah.
can say, basically.
Same. I don't know. Apparently, it was close to like a lab. I just don't know. And by default, I guess I'm considering it as a natural pandemic. And
Would the third issue that you see be climate change, or
so
I'm
like
gonna play
maybe
guess.
indirect, maybe indirect consequences of the climate change, but I don't see the climate change as the most threatening one in terms of like in the next century.
Really?
I don't.
You don't see climate change as the biggest threat of the next century?
Of this century.
The next.
In terms
the
of
next
the
80 years,
of
basically.
if you count it in terms of millions of no, it depends. If you only count it with the humans, then no. If you count it with like all beings on Earth combined, then probably yes.